Hi, welcome to Chapter 8 on the Heavenly Spheres with Helena Alvalar and Luis Ribeiro. We are starting on page 127 at the bottom under the subtitle Specific Signification in the Context of the Chart. Specific signification in the context of the chart. Following is the most important factor and the key to an accurate interpretation of an aspect. Notwithstanding the general indications already mentioned, an understanding of the aspect can only be completed when one knows the role of the planets involved in the context of the chart. In this manner, an aspect should only be interpreted after discerning the function of the planets in the horoscope, its significations and what houses it rules. Besides the natural signification of the planet, there are other factors to bear in mind. The house where the planet is posited indicates the area of life where the action manifests, and the house is ruled by the planet reveals topics underlying that manifestation. Also, the strength of the planet to execute its purpose, its dignity and ability. The essential state of the planet can significantly alter the final outcome of an aspect. Dignified planets act in a more orderly manner, contributing their strength and stability, whereas debilitated planets operate erratically, transmitting their instability to any aspect. These considerations, when well understood and applied, allow us to go beyond vague, partial, and non-contextualized interpretations typical of astrological cookbooks. For example, the Moon-Mercury opposition in the chart of King Sebastian is not enough to say that his moods, the moon, interfere opposition with his communication and understanding, Mercury. Although correct, this interpretation is insufficient. We need to place it within a larger context of the chart to reveal deeper levels of meaning. Mercury is in Aquarius, indicating a natural curiosity and a lively thought process. To these qualities, we add the assertiveness of Mars and the radiance of the Sun, which, conjunct Mercury, contributes a lively, sharp, and extremely assertive mind that is expressed in a stubborn manner because Aquarius is a fixed sign. The moon in Leo suggests an intense and assertive expression of emotions and the moods that manifest above all in this relationship with others, seventh house. Thus, the contacts between the moon and Mercury reflect an argumentative and brusque manner, opposition, marked by sharp assertiveness, triple conjunction, but colored with insecurities, in relation to his recognition by others, moon and Leo. Since the opposition occurs in the first and seventh houses, it creates difficulties in relationships of the king, often described as having a choleric and difficult temperament. The Venus-Saturn sextile can be interpreted in the same manner. This combination is not naturally easy because they are unfriendly planets with incompatible natures. Saturn is a cold and dry planet, while Venus is hot and moist. Saturn, the slower of the two, imposes its cold, dry nature upon Venus, imparting sobriety to its effective expression and cooling its natural sensibility. Since they are linked by a sextile, the interaction is somewhat facilitated, although it remains naturally difficult. Venus in Capricorn indicates an effective expression that is inhibited and pragmatic. The Saturn in Pisces adds a degree of sentimental withdrawal. His affection is contained and sober, with hints of melancholy colored by feelings of compassion, sacrifice, and suffering. For this king, affection is associated with severity and inhibition. We can see that the final outcome is always determined by the planets, although the nature of the aspect defines the manner in which they will combine. Besides the great significations of the planets, which were just considered, now look at the general context of the chart. In this chart, Saturn is the ascendant ruler and is posited in the first house, which defines, to a great extent, the motivations of the king. Venus is the ruler of the ninth house, associated with religion and faith. and it is posited in the 11th house. In the 11th house of friends and allies. King Sebastian had as strong allies people with strong religious convictions, rulers of the 11th and the 9th, who contributed greatly to his personal goals, sextile to Saturn and rule of the ascendant. We just looked at a flowing aspect between planets with incompatible natures. Now we'll look at a reverse example from the same chart. A tense aspect between friendly planets with compatible natures. In the Venus-Jupiter square, the planets are posited in signs indicating rigor and protocol. Saturn, Capricorn ruled by Saturn, and Libra in exaltation, thereby suggesting a sober and restrained expression. It is nonetheless a square in which produces dissonance between pragmatic Venus and Capricorn and the idealistic nature of Jupiter in Libra. Since Jupiter rules the midheaven, the aspiration of life, career, and power, this configuration has a direct impact on the ambitions of the king, and his choice of allies interfered with his career. Because it is a square, it caused instability and greatly disturbed his kingdom. King Sebastian was poorly advised and launched the disastrous campaign of Al-Qasir Kobir, where he lost his life. I wish there was a chart to go with this one, but I don't see a chart. Just let it. Okay. Yeah. Interpretation of non-planetary aspects. To interpret an aspect between a planet and a non-planetary point, one must add the quality of the planet to the signification of the point in question. The planet contributes its qualities, natural and accidental, and the non-planetary point receives them. For instance, a dignified Saturn with an aspect with the ascendant adds to the personal expression a note of seriousness and pondering, whereas a debilitated Saturn gives it a more uncouth and suspicious manner. On the other hand, the nature of the aspect shapes the contribution of the planet. If the aspect is flowing, the planet more easily integrates its nature to the signification of the point. If it is tense, the planet manifests in a less stable manner. For instance, a dignified Saturn in trine to the ascendant indicates that the seriousness and pondering already mentioned are expressed in a constant and stable manner. However, if the same dignified Saturn is in a square to the ascendant, those qualities will become more inconstant to the point where maybe it may harm the expression of the individual. Now we will look at the practical example of the combination of both factors, the quality of the planet and the nature of the aspect. The charts of Friedrich Nietzsche and Johannes Kepler have an aspect between a dignified Jupiter and Pisces on the ascendant. However, in Nietzsche's chart, the aspect is a trine, while in Kepler's chart, it is a square. In both cases, the personal expression is colored by the qualities of justice and liberation, although in Kepler's case, these qualities have an erratic expression because of the square. I think the next section, I'm going to create it's Antisha. Yeah, let's create a separate video for Antisha. And then we'll be done with chapter 8. Yeah. Cool. Okay. See you on the next one.